Hello, the doc is in, and welcome back to another chapter of Jujutsu Kaisen, chapter 249. I've already talked about this chapter, talked about what happened last chapter and going into this chapter twice already, 2 videos. Y'all should check them out. But in short, the important part is Yuta's pulled up to the fight. It's Sukuna and Sukuna and Yuji. Yuta and Yuji versus Sukuna time. 2 MCs, 1 antagonist. Who's getting the dub? Probably Sukuna, but hopefully Yuta lives. You know, I don't need Yuji. Obviously, obviously Yuji's the actual MC, so he's gonna live. But I just need Yuta to not be brutally maimed. All right, this is my goat. You know, that's all I ask. Anyway, let's go ahead and get into this chapter. So, chapter starts off. We go into a flashback. Is this concerning? Vaguely, but don't worry, it's not that bad. Basically, we just go back to the section where Kenjaku's gotten his head cut off, and basically Geto's body then seizes, and all the cursed spirits just blow out from his body. So every single one that he had on him, right? And so Yuta calls Rika. Him and Rika basically try to destroy a decent amount of the cursed spirits. Well, not even a decent amount. They basically plan on destroying all of them. And while Yuta and Rika are busy handling the cursed spirits, Kenjaku, who is not quite dead yet, obviously the brain part is literally Kenjaku, who just doesn't have a body right now. He uses this opportunity while they're busy to tell Kogane to give Megami, or in other words, Sukuna, the ability to complete the merger, right? So the Kogane puts in the rule, boom, Sukuna's in charge. And then this little Tengen womb thing appears from, I guess, Kenjaku's control and basically flies off to Sukuna, which we saw last chapter that Sukuna ate. And so from there, Kenjaku dies because Yuta just stabs him in the skull because, you know, what is Kenjaku really supposed to do? He doesn't have a body. He can't fight for real. So, yeah. So he dies. But in his final words, he basically says that, like, hey, you know, I really appreciate being able to fight Takaba after 1,000 years of doing a whole lot of bullshit for this final thing. So even though I'm not going to see the very fruits of my labor, I at least appreciate that coming to the end of my journey, I got to experience somebody like Takaba. And there we go. He's dead. And we return back to present day. Yuta, Sukuna, Rika. The stare down. The walk up is looking great. But Yuta's a little stressed on 2 factors. 1, Sukuna is returning back to his regular power level. See, it's been theorized for a while that, like, oh, you know, Sukuna's not using his domain, he's not using Fuga, he's not using 10 Shadows anymore. Especially not last chapter, but I guess the chapter before, where, actually no, that was last chapter, where Sukuna's arm, like hand, was like smoking and looked like it was like healing the entire chapter, even though theoretically you should be able to heal that in like 5 seconds. It was theorized like, okay, did Higuruma's attack like actually do permanent damage? Perhaps, but it seems like the assumption is that the reason why it was taking so long to heal is because his healing hasn't been up to its peak levels, or the levels it's supposed to be at, up until coming up to right now. Like, he's probably at 90% capacity or like 80% capacity. So the reason why it was taking long was just because he hasn't really taken damage up to this point, like actual damage. And if he taken any major damage, it would probably also take a while to heal. But you just pointing out that no, he's getting back, and soon he will be able to do his domain. And he's basically kind of like, he's taking a little bit of he's having a lot of doubts about his decision making skills, because he's like, oh, you know, if I would have been here, I could have probably saved Higuruma, we maybe could have even beaten Sukuna by now, etc. And the only reason we didn't do that is because I really wanted to kill Kenjaku. But he then remembers, wait, can't do that, because he's saying that, like, oh, Maki could have went in my stead. But that couldn't have been the case, because he points out that, hey, all those cursed spirits expulged from Geto's body as soon as he died, as soon as like he was dead again. So if Maki was there, even if she could have killed Kenjaku, which she probably could have, considering the sneak attack thing and everything, it wouldn't have worked out in the end, because then there would have been a lot of casualties, because a lot of the cursed spirits would have been all over the place. And who even knows, maybe Kenjaku's last message to the cursed spirits would have just been like, hey, help Sukuna out. So even if it would have ended up better with the Sukuna situation, assumably they probably wouldn't have killed him by then, even if they were winning. And by the time the cursed spirits got to join, it would have just been a whole thing. It would have been bad. So it was a good plan for you to go handle Kenjaku, right? So with that little doubting section done, let's get into the fight. Rika comes across Sukuna's face. It flies right in front to like cloud his vision, because you know that little smoky black stuff behind him. Yuta uses this opportunity to get in a sneaky stab, but Sukuna dodges. He then grabs the sword, but he doesn't grab it with his hand. Instead, as Gege detailed, he uses his slashes as a pseudo infinity to hold the blade without holding the blade. He then pulls the blade out of Yuta's hand. Yuta also just lets go of the blade. Let's go of the blade. And they then proceed, Rika and Yuta then proceed to attempt to jump Sukuna. Obviously, they're going to jump him in general, but Rika comes in from behind, big fist, big headbutt, but we have forearms here. Sukuna smacks Rika in the face, blocks the punch. Yuta, gut shot right in the stomach mouth. Boom. Stops his chanting, takes the blade back, goes for a cut, top half. Sukuna dodges. Rika preparing to throw what I can only believe is a small bus, and throws it at Sukuna. Sukuna then cuts it to pieces. Yuta comes in with a counter slash once again, blocked by Sukuna. Rika punches Sukuna into Yuta. Yuta's having his doubts. He's basically like, I'm a failure. It's my fault this plan's not going well. So he's like, you know what? I'm taking responsibility. Domain expansion. All-encompassing, unequivocal love. We get, just look at the scene. It's beautiful. Sukuna, quick on the uptake. Hollow Wicker Basket. Immediately defends himself. Yuta, quicker on the uptake. Thin Ice Breaker, straight to the noggin, sending Sukuna flying. First time with the Yuji Revenge team that we've seen like true like, oh no, he's just gotten hit and that shit hurt. Where with Yuta's attack, basically Sukuna's face starts bleeding, and Yuta basically declares, like, in his head though, he's like, everything's ending in here. We're ending it all in this domain. Probably not gonna happen. We'll talk about that after the chapter, after I'm done going through the chapter. But he just sounds so baller. That's my goat right there. That's my goat. Only Yuta could say something like that and shit be real as fuck. Now, we come to Sukuna's thoughts. He basically declares that, like, okay, so he knows who Yuta is. He doesn't really know all his abilities, but he knows that Yuta has a copy curse technique. He knows that Yuta's probably set his domain to have its sure hit attack be Hana, Angel's, curse technique, which is interesting. It's interesting to know that Yuta's domain can have basically any technique be the sure hit effect, which is fucking crazy. But he also declares that in Yuta's domain, he basically has he's unrestricted from using like all his copy curse techniques, because currently it's restricted to like, oh, if Rika's not out, but right now he can basically do whatever he wants. We're theorizing that that's connected to the blades themselves, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. He might just have cool swords in the background, which, hey, Yuta dual blading with curse techniques, bro. It's my goat. But he clears all these things, but he realizes that no, that's not how they're gonna beat me. Yuji, the brat, and his soul-seizing punches healed come trying to tear me from Fushiguro Megami's body. End of chapter. I mean, there's more line. There's like one more line where he's basically like, oh, you know, look at that. You gotta roll, Yuji. But that's not important. End of chapter. So we're peaking. Yuji curse technique reveal officially. Like, it doesn't really get more official than effectively the god of Jujutsu basically being like, no, I'm pretty sure he has the ability to like fully interact with the soul. Because up until this point, we've always known that, oh yeah, Yuji soul stuff, he can do soul attacks, etc., etc. But in this instance, especially with the little flashback that's shown right before Sukuna points out that Yuji has punches that basically hit the soul really strong, really hard or whatever, he points out that like he specifically thinks about this version of Yuji with the arm stuff. So it is, again, not literally confirmed, but it's very, 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 it's like, this is so close to being confirmed that like, if you made a theory saying that like, you know, I think Yuji's curse technique might just be soul, like soul tangibility, something like that, soul attacks, maybe soul separation, soul swap, something along those lines. If you said something like that, that'd be the most lukewarm take ever. Like, you are not trying to like think outside the box. You're not saying anything crazy. Like, that is super normal. And I'm not mad at it. It makes sense. People have been theorizing that that Yuji has been soul swapped with Kusakabe. So it makes sense that at this point it's probably the soul thing. And also, again, like I said, we've been known that, like, especially with the Mahito stuff, that Yuji has a propensity for soul stuff. So it was just unknown if that was like his actual curse ability, or it was his curse technique gonna like go further into that, or is it gonna be something kind of unrelated? We didn't really know, but at this point it's like there's definitely something going on with soul stuff, and that is like a straight up ability he has now. But I feel like now I'm saying it, low-key, that actually might not be his curse technique. It just might not, because he did read that soul book from Yuki, and he does have knowledge of the soul, so that might not be an actual technique, and he might just have the ability to interact with soul with a curse technique still due on the way, or to be revealed. It could be both. I'm cashing my check. Prediction: it could be both. I might make a separate video about this, but I'm thinking right now it could be both. As for the coming chapter, next chapter, I'm thinking next chapter, by the end of it, Sukuna might just drop Domain. He might just drop Fat Dick and Papa Domain and make us all cry by slicing Yuta to pieces. Maybe not so much Yuji. I feel like he'd be able to weather the storm, but Yuta might just be fucked. Reason why I'm saying that is because right now, it seems like an advantageous position. They basically forced Sukuna to not be able to use half his benefits from having his true form, right? He's in Domain, which means Yuta's stronger, right? He has access to all his curse techniques, unlimited. If he gets Sukuna to fumble, he gets hit with Angel Technique, which was gonna kill him. And Yuta just gets a general curse to energy boost because he's in Domain, right? This is like great for Yuta, and Yuta's already shown that he can tussle with Sukuna, right? This is great situation for Yuta. And now, not only that, but he's not just duoing, he's trioing with a guy who directly, as stated by Sukuna, can punch the soul and is the linchpin to actually getting Sukuna out of Megami's body, which is horrible for Sukuna. It's looking rough for Sukuna right now. Like, right now, this is probably like one of the best situations we've been in, where it's like, no, there's like genuinely, like, there's ways that Sukuna get out of this, but right now it genuinely doesn't look good for Sukuna. Like, genuinely so. The Diguruma stuff was close, but it was also like, nah, he's not gonna get hit by that. He's just fast, he's stronger, he's pretty much generally stronger. He could have already killed you with slashes. Like, it's just not gonna happen. This situation, I'm like, no, the odds are a little bit stacked against him. This isn't a situation where he can just slash his way out of it or just be faster than them. He's actually gonna have to contend with them, which is gonna be fun to see. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it for this chapter. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you on the next one. Maybe a prediction video. Peace.
Thank you for watching. Feel free to subscribe and watch the videos on the right. Other than that, the doc is out. Bye.